Okay, live again, but no one here. We'll just wait. Hi, Rahul. Rahul, I'm not sure if you were there before, but had a great glitch, so I've just jumped back on, and we're just waiting for other people to join in. Hello, Malvika. Hi, Hemlata. Welcome back. Apologies for the glitch. How terrible when you're talking and you're like getting into it, you're passionate, and then it freezes with a silly expression on your face. Hi, Kushbu. Hi, Amit. Hi. Yes. Yeah, sorry, we had a glitch. So don't know what happened. And then it took us a good 10 minutes to get back in. But now we're back. Thank you, Atufa. Yeah. So we'll just take some more, we'll just wait for more people to join in because there was quite a few people before I got into it. And then unfortunately we lost the people, and hopefully everybody had an opportunity to listen to some of the insights that I shared. And today we're talking about mindset, we're talking about high performance, we're talking about success, wealth, and business. So we're taking questions, and ties in perfectly with my philosophy of enabling people to be more, do more, and have more. Be more in terms of developing the character, the discipline, the mental toughness, the attitude that is required for success. Doing more is about increasing and enhancing their potential, productivity, and performance. And having more, which is about attracting a life of inspiration, joy, and financial abundance and achievement. Who doesn't want these things? I mean, I can't think of a better way to live. I don't understand why so many people will teach you to be content with the minimum in life. It's not like there's a scarcity out there. It's not like there's a shortage of good things. You know, I mean, there is an unlimited amount of abundance in life, but so many of us restrict ourselves and we feel like we need to play small. And so many of us have been brainwashed to believe that we should be satisfied. I always say, have you ever seen a satisfied person actually create anything? Have you ever seen a satisfied person change the world? Have you ever seen a satisfied person disrupt or innovate or discover or invent? Satisfied people don't do that. I mean, if we were satisfied, and by the way, the whole notion of satisfaction has probably been around for as long as human beings have been around. Can you imagine 1,000 years ago, a bunch of people sitting around going, be satisfied. We have fire. Be satisfied. We don't need a car. We don't need lights. We don't need electricity. We don't need vaccination. We don't need this. We don't need that. I mean, the only reason we have all of the stuff that we have today, our cars are better than they were ever. I mean, just you look at the cars today, they have ABS brakes, the technology that they have. Why do those cars have what they have? Because somebody was dissatisfied with the older cars. Our houses are better. Our lives are better. Our medical advances are better. Our technology is better. Why? Because somebody was dissatisfied. Honestly, one of the things I know about success, and you know, people can disagree with me as much as they want. You can't be successful if you're satisfied. If you're satisfied, you're not hungry. How can you be hungry when you're satisfied? You see, you can't be hungry and satisfied at the same time. So I don't really understand how people expect to become successful when they're already satisfied and content. So it is important to be grateful for what you have, but remain hungry about everything that you want at the same time. And if you can do that, you can maintain an immense state of gratitude, grateful for my life, grateful for my health, grateful for my family, grateful for the world we live in, grateful for all the opportunities that we have, but at the same time, maintain hunger and dissatisfaction for everything that you don't have yet, you haven't become yet, and you haven't done yet. If you can do that at the same time, you'll be unstoppable. So going back to high performance, and I was answering Harsha's question about the fact that, you know, identify the highest value tasks and prioritize them. Now, here is what I also say. Identify the most important tasks, prioritize them, identify the tasks that are urgent, and work on a plan to delegate them if they're not important. And I want you to understand this. Not everything that is urgent is important. Okay, I want you to really pay attention to this one. Not everything that is urgent is important. And I think people confuse the two. They think if this is urgent, I must prioritize this right now. And when I look at a person and I see that they have a lot of urgent things to do, but their life is not really moving forward, it's because they don't understand the difference between what's urgent and what's important. By the way, this is not my mental model. This is a mental model that was initially introduced by a former American president, President Eisenhower, who was actually a very accomplished man. He was serving on the board of multiple organizations, obviously running a country and a government. I think he was the commander-in-chief of the army. He always found time for leisure and golf and family events. And when people asked him, how do you do all of this? He actually talked about the fact that he was very methodical about separating the important things in life from the urgent things in life. Now, some things in life are neither important nor urgent. So what should you do? If things are neither important nor urgent, ruthlessly eliminate them. Okay, ruthlessly eliminate them. So that's what I want you to understand. If you want to move forward and you find that there is so many demands on your time, you have to be smart with how you manage your time. Of course, nobody in the world has more than 24 hours in a day. Why is it that we find that some people in those 24 hours cannot even overcome the basic challenges of life? And some people in the same 24 hours are able to build companies, empires, and even run governments and countries. Nobody has more time. It's what you do with that time. Okay, we had a question from Sneha. So Sneha, welcome. If you're there, please say hello. Sneha, you had a question, and it was a success-related question. And I think your question was, I'll just bring up your question so I can read out the exact question. But your question was something around, how do you know if a decision is a bad decision? And I think a lot of people are confused. When they're making a decision, they wonder, is this a good decision? How do I tell a good decision from a bad decision? Very simple. If your decision does not bring you fulfillment, joy, growth, inspiration, or abundance, it's a bad decision. Very simple. Joy, fulfillment, growth, inspiration, or abundance. If your decisions are not resulting in those things, then you're making the wrong decisions. For example, you make a decision about your career. It doesn't bring you growth. It doesn't bring you fulfillment. It doesn't bring you inspiration. It doesn't bring you abundance. It doesn't bring you joy. That's a bad decision. I mean, what are you doing making that decision? Life is so precious and time is so precious that so many people trade their most important commodity, which is time, for things that neither bring them fulfillment, nor bring them growth, nor bring them inspiration, nor bring them joy, nor bring them abundance, financial abundance. What a waste of life. And it's not just like 10 or 20 people that live like this. Hundreds of millions of people live like this. And out of those hundreds of millions of people, I mean, you know how many of them have actually gone through the school and university system? They've got degrees, but they're lacking self-awareness. They're not looking at what they're doing in their life. You see, self-awareness is actually stepping back from your own decisions. It's evaluating your life and questioning, why do I do what I do? Do I really need to do this? Is this bringing me fulfillment? Is this bringing me joy? Is this bringing me inspiration, growth, or financial abundance? If it's not going to bring me any of these things, why am I doing it? Okay, so this is something. And by the way, even if it's not bringing you fulfillment and joy in the short term, as long as it's bringing you growth in the short term, and in the long term, it brings you fulfillment and joy, even that's fine. But if it's not bringing you any of those things, and it's not just career decisions, even relationship decisions. You have a relationship with somebody, could be friends, could be colleagues, could be somebody that you're about to marry, and that person is not contributing to your growth, not contributing to your fulfillment, not contributing to your inspiration, an abundant lifestyle or joy. Why are you with that person? The only reason you're with that person is because you're fearful. You have so much insecurity that you don't even value your own time anymore. You don't even value your own life anymore. And that's what happens to a lot of people. So watch that one, be careful that you're not making those types of decisions. All right, now we had a question from Venu Gopal. Venu, thank you for your question. You had a very simple question, and your question was, how do I become a billionaire? Hi, Sandeep. How do I become a billionaire? What a question. By the way, that's what I call a lazy question, but I will answer that for you anyway. First thing I want you to understand is that you can't become a billionaire by working a 9-to-5 job. Okay? And I'm not a billionaire, and I don't even have a desire to become a billionaire, because to me, there is no meaning for me personally in becoming a billionaire. But I'll tell you what I know about billionaires and how billionaires get to where they are. When it comes to wealth, there are two ways you can become wealthy. There is what we call the slow road to wealth, and there is what we call the superhighway to wealth. The slow road and the superhighway. The slow road to wealth is when you have money working for you. Okay? Meaning you have investments. Investments don't grow fast. Good investments that are non-speculative, they don't grow fast. So when you're investing in real estate, when you're investing in stocks, and you're not speculating, you may be creating wealth, but that's what we call the slow road to wealth. The superhighway to wealth is when you have people and systems working for you, meaning you're building a business. Now, nobody becomes a billionaire simply by investing alone. Nobody. Billionaires become billionaires because this is what they do. Number one, they start a company that makes an innovative product that can be patented and protected and will be needed by the masses. That's the first thing. I'll repeat that. Start a company that makes an innovative product. I'm very careful about my choice of words. I did not say service. You will not find too many service-based companies that are billion-dollar companies, or the founder that became a billion-dollar founder by having a service-based company. So it has to be a product-based company. The product must be innovative, and the product should be patented and protected, and something that the masses will need. So not a small micro niche, but a large demographic is going to need. So that's step number one if you want to become a billionaire. Step number two is you've got to grow the company, which means you've got to have the skill set to grow the company through the acquisition of the right systems, technology, and people. Now, this means that you have to develop the type of mindset and the type of skill set which will allow you to do that. Number three, you've got to then scale the company. And that means you've got to be very skillful in how you use resources to multiply the profitability of that particular company. Okay? Number four, you have to induce what they call the multiplier effect to enhance business valuation. And the multiplier effect simply means that you use what they call the Ebitda model of business valuation, which means earnings before interest, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So there is a particular formula that is used by business valuers and business brokers to value a company. And when you apply the Ebitda model, meaning that you have built a company that can function on its own because it's so beautifully systemized, then that company can be sold or listed on the stock exchange for a massive multiple of the Ebitda formula. So this is how billionaires become billionaires. Okay? So I want you to understand that it's not an easy feat. As of now, globally, there are about 2,206 or 2,208 billionaires globally. Okay, so it's like a very small percentage. It's not even 0.0000002%. It's like a very small percentage of people that are billionaires. And you have to have the appetite, real appetite, not just a wish, not just a hope, not just a dream to be a billionaire. You've got to have a solid and practical appetite to become a billionaire. Okay, and people who are billionaires, they are so super disciplined in terms of their thinking and their planning and their strategizing. They might as well be robots. So if you want to be a billionaire, you've got to start like that. Number one, start a company that makes an innovative product that can be patented and protected and will be needed by the masses. Number two, grow the company. Number three, scale the company. Number four, induce the multiplier effect for valuation. Number five, sell or list the company. And of course, if you want to learn more about business at the foundational stage, you can come and join my Legends program. But please don't get into business without business training. And I personally, my opinion is that an MBA degree does not teach you business. It teaches you management in a corporation. It doesn't teach you how to build a company. In most cases, it doesn't, unless it's a very practical MBA program. So be careful about that. All right, question number 6 is from Abhijit. He's a mindset question, and he's asked, after watching so many videos and reading so many books, why don't we become successful in professional and personal life? Abhijit, I've got to tell you, that's one of my favorite questions, and thanks for asking that question. So I'm going to repeat that question. Abhijit has asked a question that probably a lot of people are wondering. After watching so many videos and reading books, why don't we become successful in professional and personal life? You see, one of the mistakes, one of the assumptions that people made was that if they have access to information, that they'll become successful. For the first time in the history of the world, humans have had access to the amount of information that we have through Google and the internet. We've never had so much access to so much information. But despite that, we're not becoming richer, healthier, more inspired, happier, more joyful, which clearly shows that no matter how much information we have, it does not necessarily translate into results. There is nothing to suggest that more information correlates to more results. It doesn't. So that's the first thing we have to understand, that simply by running after lots and lots and lots of information, we're not going to really change. The reason for that is information without insights does not transform behaviors. Okay? Information is something that everybody knows, everybody hears. Insight, on the other hand, is a missing piece of information that most people do not see. And information is not sufficient for transformation, but insights can gradually start to shift our paradigm and our worldview. So when I'm teaching, and if I want to change people's mindsets, I use less information and more insights, because insights are uncommon. And I know that if I use insights, every time I use a compelling insight, I will create an aha moment in people. And the more aha moments they have in their mind, the more they're starting to shift their paradigm. Okay, so that's why you've got to use insights. The second reason why information does not transform behaviors is because when we are exposed to information, whether it's through a video or through a book or through a motivational event, the information goes straight into the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is how we hear, we watch, we feel. So the conscious mind uses our sensory factors to connect with information. But our behaviors are dictated not by our conscious learning, but our unconscious beliefs, our unconscious values, our unconscious habits, and our unconscious self-image. So what happens is you give a person who has, let's just say, a lot of information about money. So let's just use an example. Take a human being that has the desire to have a lot of money, and you give them a lot of knowledge about money. You teach them about wealth creation, you teach them about investing, you teach them about risk management, you teach them about portfolio construction, you teach them about financial markets, you teach them about real estate. So you give them all this knowledge. Now you have a person who desires wealth, and they have the knowledge about wealth. But if they have a belief system that tells them that wealth is very difficult, or that wealth is only for certain people, or that I'm not worthy enough of being wealthy, or they have a belief system that says that becoming wealthy is going to make me a bad person, then what you have is that person's belief system is challenging what the person wants to do. Second, If the person desires wealth, they have the knowledge around wealth creation, but they have the habits of a poor person, meaning that they think scarcity-based thoughts. They do not think thoughts of financial abundance. They never take any type of risk. If the habits are not the right habits that are conducive to wealth creation, even when they have the desire, even when they have the knowledge, they're not going to take the types of actions that they need to take to create wealth. Third, same person, if they have a desire to create wealth, and now they also have the knowledge to create wealth, but they have a poor image. They see themselves as somebody who is not worthy of being a capitalist, or somebody who is not worthy of an empire builder or an entrepreneur or an investor, meaning that they have a poor self-image. They have the right desire, the right knowledge, but a poor self-image. So even though they have the right knowledge, because they have a poor self-image, they're not going to take the action. They're not going to act on that knowledge. So one of the things we need to understand is you can give all the information to a person, but if the person is psychologically programmed to fail, that person will not take that information and not optimize it and not maximize it. In fact, that information will be wasted on them. Which is why before we impart a skill set to a person, we first give them the tools to change their mindset. This is a very important thing for you guys to understand. That's why a lot of people fail even when they make the transition from an employee to an entrepreneur. They have the employee mindset, they become an entrepreneur, but now they're an entrepreneur with an employee mindset. They're going to fail that business because they don't have the entrepreneurial mindset. This is what also happens to professionals who become investors. They may be a professional in their career, but if they don't have the investor mindset and they don't have the investor skill set, they will still fail. They may have the knowledge, but they don't have the right mindset. So this is something we need to understand. We need to stop assuming that exposure to information is automatically going to alter our behaviors. It doesn't. It doesn't. You have to take that information and you have to change the subconscious program that runs your decisions. Okay, and this is the part about mindset that nobody teaches. This is why we designed our programs in such a way to enable people by, number one, helping them understand how their own psychology works, but then giving them the tools so that they can transform their mindset before they embrace a new skill set. I don't know, practically, most people don't teach this stuff, and no wonder. I mean, look at the fact that the average person today has so much financial data. You can go into Bloomberg, you can go into CNN, you can go into Financial Times, you can go into Wall Street Journal, you can watch international or national media 24 hours, 7 days a week on cable television or the internet around financial news. It's not like there is a lack of information out there. Where are all the millionaires in the world? Why is there such a small percentage of people in the world that become millionaires? I think according to the global shift in wealth, the number of millionaires is 0.6% in the global population. So much financial data is accessible and available, but you know what? People can't extract insights from them, and they don't know how to transform their own mind. So they don't act on that information. And a lot of the times what's happening is all this information is confusing people even more. For example, if you type in the words wealth creation on Google, you'll have 50 million results come up. So 10, 15 years ago, we did not have enough information. Today, we have too much information. And when we have too much information, it creates a new type of problem. We don't have structure, we don't have accountability, and we don't know how to implement that information. So don't assume that because you have read a few books or you know how to access data, that that's going to give you the results. And fundamentally, our entire education system works on the presumption that a person who has acquired intellectual knowledge is automatically going to become successful. And we see that that's not the case. I mean, there is a massive oversupply in the Asian and African world of graduates who have technical degrees. How many of them are inspired? How many of them are making a difference? How many of them are changing the world? How many of them have financial abundance? How many of them are disrupting and innovating? Very few. So that's the thing we need to understand, is that real education goes beyond academics. Real education goes beyond just intellectual development. It goes into the development of the imagination, the development of the creativity. It also goes in, the real education is also about the development of courage and character, which unfortunately the education system also doesn't really teach, or even if it teaches, it doesn't emphasize. So hopefully that answers your question about that. Great question, by the way. The next question that we have is from Naz, which is a mindset and a business question. And Naz has said, how do you deal with duties imposed on a person when others do not take responsibility, and then one person is burdened too much? Now, this could be a problem for quite a number of you. You may be working in a company, you may be working in a small business or a large corporation, and you're probably finding that many times they're putting more and more work on you, and you probably feel it's a bit unfair because you're not being rewarded and recognized for your work. And you probably see other people not doing their work properly, and you probably see them getting away with it. And that can build a lot of resentment because, you say, well, I'm doing all this work, and the more work I do, the more work they give me. And here are these people who are getting paid the same money as me, but they're lazy and they're not doing the work. So to tackle this problem, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to understand that when we take on an assignment, a job, a project, a role, or a responsibility, the first thing you want to do is you want to clarify the specific expectations that the other person has. I mean, all too often we say yes to a project, we say yes to a job, we say yes to responsibilities, we say yes to a task, without actually fully understanding what the other person's specific expectations are. And the problem is, a lot of the times, the people who give you the work, they themselves don't know what their expectations are. So when you ask them and you say, I want to know what you're expecting from me because I want to make an informed decision, but also you're forcing them to think through what they want from you. And so please understand that when you have a manager, you have to manage the manager. Okay, it's not just the manager's job to manage you. You also need to manage the manager by making sure that they understand you and you understand their expectations. So a lot of people don't do that. They don't clarify the specific expectations that the other person has. Number two, you've got to clarify the role and the responsibilities up front. You've got to say, look, I want to know what my role is and what my responsibilities are. Okay, you really need to clarify that by asking them this. Third, you need to clarify who is accountable and what happens if you're doing jobs that fall outside the scope of your role and responsibilities. For example, my manager may give me a job. I'll say to the manager, look, I need to clarify exactly what your expectations are, because I want to fulfill those expectations. And I want to make sure that we don't have any misunderstandings. By doing that, I'm forcing my manager to think. They will give me a list of responsibilities. And then I can say yes or no. I can say, yeah, I want this job, I want this project, I want this responsibility. Or I can say, look, I don't have the capacity to take it on. I'm not just going to say yes, because you have to understand, even when you're an employee, they are giving you a job and they're giving you a salary, but you are also giving them value. You're doing work for them. So you're not getting the salary for free. Okay, so it's a give and take relationship. But what happens is, a lot of the times the employee feels obligated and they don't have the courage to speak up, and they end up saying yes to everything. And then eventually what happens is they end up taking on too much, and then they end up resenting the manager. But whose fault is it? Well, the person who has taken the assignment is equally responsible for not clarifying the manager's expectations and agreeing to the job without understanding what was involved. You see, that's your job. As an employee, you've got to clarify that. And if you're prepared to go outside the scope of the responsibilities in your job, you need to negotiate a reward for it. So I would be saying to my manager, look, I see that you've asked me to do things that go beyond my role and my responsibilities. Mr. Manager or Mrs. Manager, I respect you and I'm going to do it. But I'd like to be able to negotiate, or I'd like to be able to talk to you if I was fulfilling objectives that fall beyond my role. I'd like to be able to talk to you about how I can increase my income as well. Okay, so it's a give and take relationship. And you have to be a business-minded person. You see, even if you're an employee, and there's nothing wrong in being an employee, but be an employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. Because if you're an employee with an entrepreneurial mindset, it's only a matter of time. You will either end up as a stakeholder in the company, you will either end up getting profit share, you might become a partner in the company, or if they don't respect you, you'll have enough self-respect to walk out of that company and set up your own business. Don't be afraid to have an entrepreneurial mindset. In fact, I'll tell you this, top executive leaders have a real appreciation for employees that demonstrate entrepreneurial thinking. Okay? So this is, you don't, just because you have an employee's position doesn't mean you need to act and think like an employee. You can definitely start to think like an entrepreneur, and you will end up in leadership. You will end up in executive positions if you think like an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs have to take initiative. Entrepreneurs have to create work and then do the work. Entrepreneurs don't avoid problems, they have to seek problems. Entrepreneurs don't get paid for input, they get paid for output. So when you create that entrepreneurial thinking, your respect in the workplace will increase. Whereas an employee mindset person expects to be paid for time and education, not for results. And that's the fundamental difference. And that's why I would say to every employee that doesn't want to start their own business, fine, but don't have the employee mindset. Build an entrepreneurial mindset, and you will see that you will rise to leadership positions or executive positions. Hopefully that was helpful, Naz. I've done my best to answer your questions in the way I could. All right, so here's another question by Shaheem. Shaheem has asked a question about retirement tips or strategies for people who are above the age of 55. So I will do my best to answer this question. So first thing, Shaheem, if you're over the age of 55, identify exactly when you want to retire. Do you want to retire at 60, 65, 70? Identify the date when you actually want to retire. That's now step number one. Step number two, clarify if you want to retire fully or you want to work part-time when you retire. Because a lot of people are retiring and then they're working part-time. They might be doing some freelance work. They might be doing some consulting work because they have the skill set. They might do some mentoring work. So there's a lot of skills that you'll still have that you can use at retirement. You don't have to stop working completely at retirement. In fact, a lot of studies are actually starting to show that people who retire, especially if they have a very busy and active career and they go into full-time retirement, they experience massive feelings of depression. And I highly recommend that even if you retire, it's good to do some part-time work to keep your mind active, but also you'll be engaged in the community, and also your sense of self-worth will increase because you're bringing some income at home. The third point for you would be to consider if your skill set is sufficient for you to be able to work in a freelance capacity or a part-time entrepreneurial capacity. And if you don't think you have the right skill set, then have a plan to upgrade your skill set. So let's just say you're 55 and you decide to retire at 65, you've got 10 years. In those 10 years, you can upgrade your skill set. So when you retire at 65, you may have a new skill set that you can use to create a supplementary income at retirement. So highly recommended. Step number 4, identify the income that you will need coming in every year when you stop working to cover all of your bills and expenses. So how much is it going to cost you to put food on the table, to pay your electricity bill, gas bill, to pay your petrol expenses, to pay for your medical insurance? Find out how much that's going to cost. You need to know that. I mean, it's unbelievable how many people retire without knowing whether they're prepared for retirement or not. Okay, you need to know, because part of the reason you need to know is because there is an expectation that if you're healthy and you stop working at 60 or 65, you may live to 85 or 90. I mean, that's 20, 30, 35 years at retirement without an income. So one of the reasons that you want to be you want to prepare for retirement is because when you retire, and you have to think about this carefully, you see, we have this thing called human capital. When we're young, we have human capital, we have energy, we have strength, we have time. So that's human capital. As you get older, your human capital is starting to deplete. Energy is starting to drop. Capacity, physical capacity, mental capacity, all is starting to deteriorate. So when you're getting older, there is a natural diminishing of human capital. Now, when your human capital is dropping because you're getting older, you want your financial capital to increase to compensate for the reduction in human capital. Okay? You really need to think about this. The reason so many people lose their sense of self-respect and become depressed and become sick at retirement is because when the human capital drops, which it inevitably will, you, me, everybody in this group who's watching this is going to get older at some point. And the worst part is that the human capital is dropping and the financial capital is dropping at the same time. That's depressing. Not only are you physically not capable like you used to be when you were young, but you don't have the means necessary to live the life and lifestyle that you want either. And then it becomes even worse for a lot of people because they end up retiring, they end up depending on their children. And then when the children start saying, no, mommy, daddy, I can't give you the money, I can't do this, I can't do that. And then you are starting to really lose your sense of dignity. So you have to know how much income you need at retirement. And then the next step is you need to know how much net worth you need to have. And if that net worth was producing an annual return of 5% per annum, it could give you your annual income without depletion of the principal or the capital. Okay? The reason you don't want the depletion or the principal depleted, meaning you don't want it to reduce, is because you don't know how long you're going to live. You could live 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 years after retirement. Who knows? I mean, people are living into their 90s. So if you stop work at 60 or 65, you need to be prepared for the possibility that you may live a very long time without an income, which is why you don't want to go into retirement without upgrading your skill set. And you don't want to go into retirement without having some sort of a net worth plan that can give you your annual income to cover all of your living expenses. And if you do that, you are taking a massive risk. And this is one of the biggest issues that I have with the education system, is that they're allowing people to get out of university with a degree in their hand, not knowing anything about growing money. It's a shame. And you know, honestly, it breaks my heart when I see older people suffering because they are financially not educated. And the other problem is, here is the other issue. If you don't have at least basic financial education and you go to a financial professional, some of them will cheat you because you don't know what you're doing. So at the very least, you want to have a basic fundamental understanding of money and finance so people cannot take advantage of you. Okay, very important. A lot of older people get taken advantage of because they were not financially savvy. All right, so I really want you to understand that. I hope everyone's getting value. By the way, thank you, Anish. I saw your compliment. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jayashri. The thing is, guys, the reason, even if you're young, I want you to pay attention to this, because please understand, your friends will not tell you this. Your parents will not tell you this because they don't know it. Your teachers will not tell you this. So it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you still need to understand the game of life, the game of money, the game of success. Life is so precious that you really want to maximize it while you're here. Now, just a couple of other things for you, Shaheen. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you may need to go and see a financial advisor. And there is nothing wrong in seeing a financial advisor. There are three things I would make sure that the financial planner has. Number one, they're properly qualified and licensed. Number two, they have good testimonials from clients like you at your life stage. And number three, they have come in number three, they have the skill set to be able to help you with retirement planning. Okay? Because financial advisors are also like doctors. Doctors, there are different types of doctors with different types of specializations. It's the same thing with financial planners. You want to make sure that they have the ability to help you. All right. The next question that we have is from Nikat Ahmed. Nikat, you have sent a question about how do you get high-paying clients worldwide? So I put a set of steps for you. Number one, Nikat, the first thing you need to understand is that if you're going to charge premium prices for your services, you can only charge premium prices if you are solving a complex problem. You don't get premium prices for solving basic problems or average problems. You only get paid premium prices for solving a complex problem. And a complex problem is a problem by definition that majority of people don't know how to solve. Okay, so that's the step number one. Identify a complex problem that you want to solve. Don't just chase the money. The reason, if you chase the money, what's going to happen is when things become difficult, you will quit or you will get bored. So by choosing a complex problem that you feel passionate about, you will be intrinsically motivated to research how to solve that problem. You're not going to have to force yourself. Okay, that's a very important point I want you to understand. Step number two, evaluate if you have the skill set. Maybe you have the skills already, or maybe there is a gap in your skills, but you need to evaluate whether you have the skills or you don't. Step number three, if you don't have the skills, identify what you need to learn and allocate disciplined time for deliberate practice and disciplined research. And by the way, you don't have to do 5 years worth of education to solve a complex problem. You can take one micro problem and you can have deep knowledge about that micro problem. So rather than your knowledge being a mile wide and an inch deep, you can have your knowledge an inch wide and a mile deep. So that way, what you're doing is you're building a specialization, and within 6 months, you can do enough if you do deliberate practice, and if you do disciplined research in 6 months, you can come up with enough knowledge to be able to solve a complex problem. Okay, and it doesn't need to be everything. It can just be one little problem that you can solve. Let me give you an example of this. Let's just say I have an interest in business and I want to enable business owners solve one problem. Rather than helping them solve every business problem, I could micro niche and I could just target businesses that make between $3 to $5 million in the services-based industry to solve one problem. And that one problem, as an example, could be how to create systems and processes. Or it could be one problem. It could be how do you attract the top talent in your business? Or it could be how to increase your net cash flow in your business. So one specific problem. And because I'm only taking one micro problem, I don't need to study it for 5 or 10 years. I only need to study it with deliberate practice and disciplined research for 6 months so that I have enough of a skill set. And then I can target a lot of business people who meet the criteria that I want, and I can market my services only to them and become a specialist in that field. Number 4, you have to come up with a compelling message, meaning you have to package what you do into a one-line phrase that is catchy and easy to remember. Okay? You have to do that so that your customers, your prospects, the target market that you want to go after, when they hear your message, they automatically know that you can help them. So that's very important. Step number 5, update your LinkedIn profile and optimize all of your social media pages. Very important that you optimize, because LinkedIn especially is your window to the world. You see, today what's going to happen is before a customer engages a professional, they're going to first do research on you on Google. And when they type in your name on Google, one of the first things that comes up is your LinkedIn profile. Now, if they go into your LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn profile is structured like a CV, but it doesn't really expand on the problems that you solve, it doesn't talk about your message and your philosophy, it doesn't talk about why you care about the customer, it doesn't talk about your personal story, then what you're doing is you are not optimizing your LinkedIn profile and you're leaving a lot of opportunities. You're not optimizing the opportunity that you have. So that's a very important step. Number 6, regularly create content that talks about the problem you solve, why the problem exists, and what people don't know about solving the problem. You see, you don't need to go and talk about the solution. And this is a fundamental mistake that a lot of influencers make, and a lot of coaches and consultants and advisors and mentors and speakers. The fundamental mistake that they make is they immediately, when they put content, they go and talk about the solution. No. You're assuming that your prospect and your customer knows what the problem is. They don't even know what the problem is. Why are you talking about a solution? So you've got to talk about the problem, why the problem exists. A lot of them don't know why the problem exists. As an example, I talk a lot about money and wealth. And majority of people don't even know why they don't have money and wealth. So I have to first educate them on why they're not wealthy, because they don't know why they're not wealthy. They may assume that it's circumstantial, or it's the economic climate, or it's their boss, or it's their job, or it's their industry. How many people do you think actually understand that it's their own lack of mindset and skill set that is resulting in their financial failure? It's my job to educate them on the problem first. And once they understand the problem, only then I educate them on the solution. Okay, this is something important for you to understand. You don't become a solution expert first. You become the problem expert first and educate them on the problem and why the problem exists. Step number 7, when you put content and people comment on that content, build a relationship with them. Actually say hello to them, send them a private message, send them some material. And once you have built a relationship, invite them for a non-obligation consultation or a conversation. Okay, because we're talking about how do you get high premium clients. For those of you who missed what I'm talking about, we're talking about how do you get high premium clients globally. This is the formula. Number 8, learn how to consult like a world-class consultant. World-class consultants do not beg. They do not act pushy. They do not talk about themselves. They do not talk about their products. They do not talk about any of that. They ask very intelligently crafted questions to try and get all the information from the prospect. Okay, so you want to learn world-class consulting. If you want to be paid high premium prices and you want to have global clients, you need to be practiced in the art of world-class consulting, which incorporates high-level communication, persuasion, and negotiation. Okay, you need to learn it. And if you don't know how to do that, come into my advanced communication workshop where I go into this in more detail. And then at number 9, you need to be very good at pricing your services, because it's very easy to price a product. You see, if you're selling food, or you're selling a digital device, or you're selling a washing machine, or you're selling a television or a computer, the prices of commodities is pretty much set by the market. But when it comes to the price of a service, that is not easy. There are a number of variables that you have to consider before you can price a service. And you need to price a service at the level where it will give you more than enough profit, but you also need to go after the market that has the ability to pay you. Okay? Because a lot of the times people want to charge premium prices, but they're going after a market that has no money. So you have to go after the market that has the money, but the more money people have, the more discerning they are, meaning that they don't easily give that money up. That means you have to create a lot of value for them, and you have to position yourself uniquely. So they are my top tips around how you create high-paying clients. Now, this was supposed to be a 30-minute chat, guys, but you know what? I'm really enjoying spending time with you all, and I'm glad that you're asking intelligent questions. I have to say, and I always say this, that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of questions we are prepared to ask. And I can tell you, I've had some really good questions. So thank you for those of you. I've picked some of the best questions that I've had. Some were pretty average, but majority of them were very good. And I have to say thank you for sending good questions. If you've been a part of my community, you know I'm always going to challenge you to think. I'm always going to challenge you to upgrade your standards, your mindset, your skill set. The reason is because I want you to be more, do more, and have more. I really do. Most people will tell you to settle for less, not me. I will always encourage you to go for more because you can have more. And I know you want more. I mean, how can you not want more? It's human nature to continue to strive and be better and improve. And you want to maximize your potential, right? Why would you allow yourself to go to your grave without understanding and maximizing your full potential? What a waste of human potential. I've got to tell you, it's not the biggest waste in the world is not environmental resources. It's human resources. It's the biggest waste in the world. I mean, majority of people will go from birth to death without tapping into even 10 or 20% of their entire potential. And because human beings are so powerful and we are so creative and we have such amazing capabilities that no other species has, imagine if we double the number of people who are making a difference in the world. If we double the number of people who are making a change in the world. If we double the number of people who are making discoveries and inventions and innovating in the world, what could happen to the world? It's only a very small percentage of people that are responsible for human progress. But if each one of you who's been here today, you all decide that you want to upgrade your mindset, you want to upgrade your standards, you want to upgrade the expectations you have from yourself, you want to upgrade your skill set, it's not so hard to stand out. It takes 3 to 5 years to be in the top 3 to 5% of your industry. But you can't get there by doing what everybody else is doing. That is the surest path to mediocrity. Do what everybody else is doing. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is the word extra. A little bit of extra effort, a little bit of extra risk, extra initiative, extra character, extra commitment, extra discipline. And before you know it, you've gone from ordinary to extraordinary. And why should you want to go from ordinary to extraordinary? I'll tell you why. When you're extraordinary, you get extra respect. You get extra influence. You feel extra confident. And you attract extra money. Why would you not want to be extraordinary in your life? In a world where being ordinary and average and being mediocre is the norm, being extraordinary is an act of rebellion. So I would encourage you all, you have come here, you've come into my world, you've come into my universe because you want more. People who don't want more don't like what I stand for. But let today be a prime message for you today. Let today be a catalyst for you to aim for extraordinary. From this point on, what's the date today? The 6th of July, 2021. Let 6th of July, 2021 be the date that you decide to aim for extraordinary. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is extra. That little bit extra makes a lot of difference in your life. So congratulations for being here and spending time with me, and thank you. And I'm grateful for your time and your attention. I look forward to seeing you at the next live. We will announce the next live and we will again take some questions. Please send your questions in. You never know whose questions I'm going to pick. And I've picked the top 10 best questions that I had out of the many, many questions that I was given today. Please send your questions in again. And even if I didn't pick up your question today, send it again, because I'll be able to recognize it. And if your question comes 2 or 3 times, I'll pick it because I know that you really want to conquer that particular challenge. So thank you again. I will see you all very soon. I appreciate your time. Take care.